I'm going to welcome you again, though, to the safest city in the United States to be a cat. So I have my cat lovers in the room, yes? Awesome. So I want to challenge you guys a little bit today, and I want to start out by asking you what it is that we are all doing in this room, and why are we doing it when we start talking about cats. At the base of what we do, why are we doing this with cats? To save lives. What else? Prevent babies. Save lives. We're all in this room because we think we're saving the lives of cats, right? That's why we go to work every day. We're saving the lives of cats. We have meaningful work, right? No one is in this room because we don't want to save the lives of cats. Okay, so we're going to look a little bit at what we're doing in this industry and why, and I want to challenge how you guys think about what we're doing, because the theme of this conference is kind of re-envisioning what we're doing in this industry and if there can be a better way of doing things, right? So let's talk about our friend, the house cat, that lives in your house, in my house, and in your shelters. And I'm kind of you're all cat nerds, right? I'm in good company? Okay. So I'm a cat nerd, and you can go down deep dives of this, but I want to talk a little bit about our friend, the cat. So our friend, the cat, who is in your shelter right now and who's in your house, her DNA is the exact same as it was 12 million years ago. Her body size is the same as it was 4 million years ago. The only evolutionary change she has undergone in 4 million years is the size of her body, but her DNA has not changed in 12 million years. Cats are pretty unique in this. They've done exactly what cats do, and is say, F you, I'm a cat, I'm fine how I am, right? Cat has pretty much said, I am so genetically perfect of a creature that I have defied biodiversity and I don't need to change because I am so perfect as I am. Screw you. 12 million years they have not changed. They're same exact animal that was roaming about 12 million years ago is in your shelter cages right now. Now dogs, on the other hand, dogs, we have wildly modified their DNA, right? We've totally messed them up. Cats, done what cats do. Right? So I want you to keep this in the back of your mind when we talk about what we're doing and why we're doing it. So where are cats thriving in the world today? Everywhere. Cat is everywhere other than Antarctica. And it's probably only because we haven't introduced them yet. Do I have a pointer? No. We haven't introduced them yet to Antarctica. But let's talk a second about all these cats. Let's start up at the top with our Viking cats up in the Nordic countries. Are they doing okay there? As far as you know, is anybody from outside of the U.S.? Where are you from? Mexico. How are cats doing in Mexico? Cats are doing fine. Your Nordic Viking cats, they're doing fine up there in the Scandinavian countries, right? Where do they live? Do they live inside, outside, or both? They live both. Tell me about our Siberian cats up there in the north, in the northeast corner. How are they doing? Right? Did you see that Facebook post not long ago? Those beautiful Siberian cats covered in snow and ice trudging across the tundra. How are they doing? Are they living inside, outside, or both? Asia cats. You got your lucky little Asia cat over there? How are they doing? Inside, outside, or both? Tell me about African cats, where our ancestral cats came from. Doing okay as a species? Where do they live? Primarily outdoor. Australia, he's an angry cat because we don't like what Australia's doing to our cats right now, do we? But as a species, before we decided to carpet bomb them with poison, how are they doing? Inside, outside, both. South America? Everybody doing good? Outdoor cats there? Tell me about what's going on in North America there with that big fat sucker on the top left. Are they? Why is he big and fat? Does he have diabetes? Does he have behavioral problems? Do we wholesale kill them in our shelters? So North America, specifically the U.S., is the only country that has this ideology about cats, that they need to be indoor creatures, that their life is only safe and fulfilled when they live inside our house. They are the only cat who has the rate of diabetes that ours do, the behavior problems that we do, the URI that we do, and we are the only civilized country in the world that kills them like we do. So I just want you to keep this in the back of your mind. I'm not trying to change your minds here. I want you to go home and think about things, because North America, the U.S., is that tiny little strip of land up there, and we are doing it differently than everyone else. How's the species doing everywhere? Good. If you're super nerdy like I am, there are 2 awesome documentaries, and you can find them both on YouTube now. If you want to know how successful cats are as a species, both of these documentaries, and you may have seen them because they're a little old now, look at what happens to the planet after humans have gone extinct, called Life After People. One's by Nat Geo, one's by the History Channel. And they both take a hard dive on what happens after the human race is wiped out, what happens one day after, 100 years after, 1,000 years after, 1,000,000 years after. Both of them have come to the same exact conclusions that you see up here. Unfortunately for our dogs, because we have genetically modified them so much, they don't last much more than a week. Sorry. What kind of dogs do survive? Street dogs. What do street dogs look like? Mutts. Small, coyote-ish. Texas brown dogs, right? Cats, I'm fine. Fine without you guys. Not only are they fine without us, both of these documentaries that took a hard dive into the science came up with the same exact conclusion, that 1,000,000 years after people, house cats remain the dominant apex predator on the planet, and not only will they survive without human presence, they thrive. How's that make y'all feel? Makes me feel like crap, because I've dedicated my life to the welfare of cats, right? And you all have in this room too. And it's kind of a crummy feeling when you're confronted with some of this, like going, what are we doing? So things to keep in the back of your mind. This is one of my favorite blogs from Francis Batista, who's one of the founders of Best Friends. And you can find this online if you want to read the whole thing, but it's about the ways that shelters are failing cats. It's the inescapable understanding that municipal animal shelters, with their essential design rooted in a 120-year-old effort to protect the public from packs of stray dogs, are failing cats miserably. Do you feel like our industry as a whole is failing cats? People are? The collective we in this country. I feel like we're failing cats. And again, I've dedicated my life to it, right? So that's a hard pill to swallow, because I feel like we're not doing it right. We're doing it better. Things are better. I'm not going to be that doom and gloom, right? But I think we can all come to the acceptance that we are failing cats, and we need to look for a better way to do things. So how did we get in this mess with cats? How did we get from all those other countries who have cats thriving as a species and doing well and living inside, outside, both, or just outside? How did we get to where we are in this country? Does anybody know? Too many dog lovers. You're close. Let's start talking about how cats got into this mess. So before the 1800s, there were no laws whatsoever in this country protecting animals. You could just, if you wanted to be that kind of a guy, you could just go around shooting whatever you want and no one would bother you. In the mid to late 1800s, as you probably know, the ASPCA was founded to protect carriage horses in New York City, and the very first legislation was started to protect carriage horses, and then they moved on to protecting all animals. But as you can imagine, in things in the late 1800s, we weren't too concerned if a cat or dog went missing, right? Because they weren't very valuable. But during this entire period, cats were considered wildlife. No different than a raccoon. Sure, they lived around us because that's how cats domesticated themselves to us a little bit, right? And there's argument to be made from evolutionary scientists who debate that cats are not even social or not even domesticated because they haven't genetically changed at all. But they were considered wildlife in our society. Through the 1940s, cats were still considered wildlife in this country. We didn't bother them. They didn't bother us. They did not live in our homes. They lived around us for sure, right? In our barns and all those fun places where cats started cropping around. But something started happening in the early 1900s and late 1800s. Who knows what hydrophobia is? Rabies. So back in the day, we didn't know a whole lot about rabies, right? It was kind of like we thought thunder came from Zeus roaring overhead. And we started coming up with, well, there seems to be, hydrophobia, rabies when these dogs are around, and it seems to be the brown dogs, so you better kill all the brown dogs. No, it's only the black dogs, better kill them. And so what happens when we panic? We just start wholesale killing everything, right? And so this is what we started doing in the early 1900s. This is a delightful article from the New York Times from back in 1877. This is how they dealt with hydrophobia back then, as they rounded up all the stray dogs and they drowned them in the Hudson River. We still left the cats alone because they're wildlife. They weren't bothering anything, and we hadn't yet made the false connection that hydrophobia translated to cats and dogs. During this time in animal control is primarily concerned with livestock. Why? Money. They're valuable. Somebody loses their cow, I want my cow back. So that was the primary goal. And the primary purpose of dogs, rounding up dogs, was what? We don't want them to kill the cows either, but we don't want you giving rabies to people, right? So from our very onset, it was a catch and kill ideology that we started in this country. In the 1940s and 50s, America kind of underwent this beaver cleaver, clean up the streets kind of mentality, right? Remember that back in the day? To stop the spread of rabies, we started rounding up everything. We wanted to clean up the streets. We wanted this cute little Americana town. And so people were calling on the dogs, and they'd say, well, there's some cats out there. May as well pick them up, too. Catch and kill was the only mission back in the day. So this is the day of ye old pound catcher that you can remember on old Tom and Jerry cartoons, the dog pound catcher going around. And if owner did not come to reclaim the animal was killed. There was no adoption option, period. It was catch and kill was the sole purpose. Cats were never a rabies threat, but we rounded up and killed them anyway because we wanted to have these quaint, quintessential Americana towns with our picket fences and everything neat and tidy. And this 1940s and 1950s are when things started going to hell in a handbasket for our friend the cat. I argue that things got worse when we started considering cats as companions. So in 1947, kitty litter was invented. So 1950, so 70 years ago. That enabled, for the very first time, cats to live in your house, kitty litter. So keep that in the back of your mind, that cats have been living inside for a total of 70 years, and only in this country. You guys see this, where we're very stuck in this industry on the idea that cats have to live inside? It's for their own best interest. We're very stuck on that idea in this country. 70 years, only in our little strip of land, are we doing that to this species. And I'm not making an argument for one way or the other. I want you to go home with food for thought, right? And then we started, good thing, 1969, we started saying that we need to sterilize these animals before they get adopted. That's great, right? No one's arguing with that, right? However, it was in the 1970s when shelters, we said we're going to start sterilizing indoor cats. But we did it under this junk science saying that if you keep your cats inside, shelters started pushing the issue to keep your cats inside, rather. And shelters did it not so that cat would be safe, not so that cat wouldn't go out and kill songbirds or any of the other stuff. They did it because the shelters thought that if you keep your cat in the house, she won't be outside making babies. What do we know nowadays? She'll run out to get pregnant. Is sterilizing your pet cats doing anything for the cat population of the country? Because who's making babies? Dr. Levy, are you still in here? What happened? Tell me about, you know the answer. If we only spay and neuter our indoor cats, does that do anything to the population of cats in this country?
Not anymore, because they are pretty much all spayed and neutered now. 85% plus are, but only 2% of the outdoor community cats, so that needs to be our target.
So, keeping your cats inside the house in the 1970s was doing nothing to alleviate the cat population throughout the country that people were calling about. But it was us that we created this concept of indoor cats, the shelter industry, and we did it under the guise of junk science. And we started making improvements in the 70s because now we love the cat, right? Cat wasn't just property, now we love the silly thing. We had all the openings of Best Friends and the ASPCA in San Francisco. Alley Cat Allies came around and said, hey, wait, maybe we should spay and neuter them and put them back, which, oh my God, was a radical concept in the 1990s. So again, 70 years, cats have been in the house. 150 years we've been at this as an industry. The industry was designed for what? Dogs and livestock. Remember? At any point has our industry stepped back and asked what we are doing with this species that got thrown into the mix? A little bit? Have we ever done a complete overhaul of our industry and said, this is a new species that was never designed for the purposes, catch and kill, for rabies risk or for your valuable livestock to be returned? Have we ever stepped back and reevaluated, are we being species appropriate? right? Cats entered the system that was built for dogs and livestock, and we have never, ever done a total tear down of the system to address what we are doing and why we are doing it. So some of the ways, we're going to start talking about some ways that are failing cats right now and some ways that we're doing better on them. Let's talk about return to owner rates. Everyone wants return to owner, right? Awesome thing, right? RTO rates for dogs, about 20% nationwide. 1 out of 5 dogs will go home. Owner will come for it. Cats, owner is not coming for cat. We're above average, far above average in Austin, but it is still a good bet that owner is not coming. The national reclaim rate for cats is 2%. Why are some reasons that owner does not come for cat when she's impounded? They don't know she's missing. If you have anybody got outdoor cats they're caring for? Yeah, right, everybody raise their hand. If Fluffy doesn't come home for dinner tonight, do you call the shelter? No, he's out doing walkabout. I don't know where he is. He's a jerk. He does what he wants. F you, I'm a cat, right? You don't call the shelter when Fluffy doesn't come home for a day. Why else don't cats get picked up by owner? They're fined. They readopt themselves continuously. Yeah, all the time, right? You all have someone else's cat in your house right now, right? Yeah. So, stray cats, and this is a study by Dr. Levy, and we're going to point her out continuously through this study, through this seminar. Stray cats are 13 times more likely to go back home where they belong if you leave them alone on the sidewalk than if you impound them. Cat knows where she is. She'll go home, leave her alone. 13 times more likely to find her owner if you do nothing and just give her a little wave as you drive past on the sidewalk than if you pick her up. Impounded in this country, she's still looking at, she may or may not, 50-50 odds to make it out of a shelter alive. So if we know those two things to be true, and we do because Dr. Levy's science does not lie, should we be having stray holds for cats at all? There's not a right or wrong answer here. What happens if we do not have a stray hold for cat? What can we do? We can get them out. I can send them to rescue right away. I can adopt it out right away. I can S&R her right away. What else can I do if I don't have a stray hold on her? I can kill her right away. I can adopt her out to somebody else, and you may come tomorrow looking for your cat, and then we're in an awkward spot as a shelter, right? So there's good sides and bad sides to this. The next question there is an easy answer for. Should we be impounding healthy stray cats at all? Well, sometimes. Yeah, so spayed, neutered, and yeah, absolutely. So yes. And I should have clarified this, that I don't think that's an impound. For me, that's a pickup, that's a spay and neuter, that's going back. But yes, good for you, yeah. If they're not healthy, absolutely. If they're not safe, if they need us. Kittens. Tell me about microchips. Who runs microchip clinics? How many cats come? Yeah, laughter. Was that laughter in the back room? Cats do not come, right? Or anywhere near in the volume that they do with dogs. Why don't cats come to your microchip clinics? They don't need them. Why don't they need them? She's not going to get lost. She never goes outside. Why else don't they come? Stressful. It's a nightmare to take a cat to a microchip clinic, right? So microchips do work, but the cats don't go to them. You should be going to the cats. This is a photo from, do I have anyone from Tucson in here? Rory's back there. So we did this, I was visiting Tucson, the Pima Animal Shelter a couple months ago, and I'm sure you've all seen Kristen Auerbach speak. This was their very first drive-through microchip clinic that Tucson did, and I was fortunate enough to be there when they were doing this, and so I went out to witness it. And being the cat person at the shelter that day, anytime a cat drove up, they all came like, Monica, can you come, please? There's a cat, because they're all dog people that, So I started doing the cat, and they wanted to pull the cat out of the car, and they wanted to put it in a trailer, and they wanted to do this. And I said, no, just get in the car with the cat, chip the cat, and move on, 30 seconds. What we noticed in doing this, though, was that there were so many cats driving up, drive-through microchip clinic. They would literally just drive up in the parking lot, and it was like a Wendy's. And what we started noticing was that I was just supposed to go out there and take a couple photos, and I stayed there for like 4 or 5 hours, because then they had so many cats coming that they just made a lane for just cats where Monica could just go down the line and chip all the cats, and the dog people were happy because they didn't have to touch a cat, and I was happy, and it worked well. But I started asking people who showed up, why are you here today to get a microchip? There's so many cats today. What is going on? And people like this who drove up, one of them started crying and telling me, thank you so much for coming in my car. She's so scared. I didn't want to bring her out. Several people drove up. They had no carrier at all. The cat was just loose in the car. Some of them were in like laundry baskets. And right, you've seen this, right? All of them told me she's so scared I couldn't bring her into a clinic. I don't have a carrier. I just threw her in the car. Whatever. But we started noticing, and we're going to track, and we're hoping to get a grant for this because it's so wildly successful, because so many more cats came, because we made it species appropriate, or more species appropriate. We said we're not going to pull you out of your house, your territory. We're not going to make you come in front of a bunch of dogs and sit there on the floor while they bark at you. We're going to come to you. We're going to meet the cat where she is, instead of making the cat come to us on our terms. So think about that. SNR, anybody, you have shelter neuter return? A lot of us, some of us. Those cats still have to undergo stray hold time? Change your ordinance. Change your ordinance. Why do you need a stray hold time on a cat that you're putting back who's going to go right home where she belongs? Antiquated policies. Your shelter neuter return cat should have no stray hold time. In Austin, and I'm happy to share our Austin ordinance with you, as soon as a cat comes in and she is marked for SNR, which is in the first 24 hours, her butt is spayed, neutered, vaccinated, microchipped, and she is back home on the sidewalk where we found her 24 hours later, no stray hold time. Because science tells us owner is not coming. She's going to go home if we put her back, and then we can use our cage space that we do have at the shelter, our resources at the shelter, to save the sick, the kittens, the ones that you guys have said do need us. Do I have veterinarians in the audience besides Dr. Levy, Dr. Jefferson? Okay, good, because we're going to pick on them. A couple of them? DVM? Do you guys all take your cats to the vet every year for a holistic wellness check? You're laughing, a couple of you, right? Over half of us, I don't, so I'm not picking on you. My cat, I'm the worst veterinary client in the world. I go when my cat is like half dead on its side, and you know. Hi, it's the first time you've seen her. Over half of us don't take our cats to the vet. Why? It's horrible. It's horrible for cat. It's horrible for owner, right? And it's expensive if you've got more than one. Yes, and of course it's very expensive to have more than one. Yes. But most of us don't go because it's a terrible experience by all accounts, right? So 52% of cat owners don't go. 58% of people say their cat hates going to the vet. Are you private practice? Can I pick on you? You're shelter medicine, or are you private practice? You're retired. Okay. If you imagine that you are a private practice veterinarian and you've just graduated with $100,000 of student loan debt and you just sunk $1 million into opening your first practice, you've got debt out the wazoo. Who's keeping the lights on at your clinic? Dogs. They're your clients, period. They're paying the bills. You can't begrudge the veterinarians for that, right? If you're big pharma and you're developing new drugs, who are you making them for, cats or dogs? Dr. Levy, would you like to read your quote? You said this years ago at the Best Friends Conference in Atlantic City when I was first putting together this presentation. I asked Dr. Levy how we are failing cats, and Dr. Levy said cats are small, quiet, convenient little creatures. It's easy to put them in a corner and forget about them. She's a smart lady, isn't she? We forget about cats. What do dogs do when they're upset at the shelter? Can you ignore a 90-pound pit bull who wants dinner? Can you ignore an 8-pound cat that's upset and shut down? Because what do cats do when they shut down? They try to die. They hide and try to die. They're statuesque, right? So it's a fair statement to say that in veterinary medicine, cats lag way behind dogs on science, because we're just simply following the money. What can you do about that as shelter workers? Educate? Pay attention to them? There's some cool things that you can do. Who's signed up for fear-free shelters? Anybody make all their staff go through it? We have it at Austin Pets Alive. It's a free course. This is something that you can do when you leave here today. You can go home and for free, and you yourself and all of your people who handle cats can sign up for fearfreeshelters.org and take the certification to learn how to handle cats in a species-appropriate, fear-free way. at your shelter. It's specifically meant for shelter professionals. When you first intake a cat at your shelter, it is 9 times out of 10 the first time that cat has seen a clinic, a veterinary clinic in her life, right? First time she's been injected with something, the first time we've gotten a weight on her, used a stethoscope on her, it's the very first time she's seen a medical clinic setting. And how do we handle her when she arrives to our intake facility? We use scruffer, and you drag her out of that crate and you pin her little fuzzy butt down and you get done your job because you're busy and you're in a hurry and you got 26 other cats to get through. I'm not judging. We all do it too, right? What does that teach that cat? This is a terrible experience, and when mom gets this carrier out again at home, you know where you can find me? Under the bed. So what can you do as shelter professionals to help reverse that trend right now that cats don't go to the vet and don't get the care that they deserve? You can get the vet to them. You can start handling them and teaching them from day one that this is not a traumatic experience. And so Fear-Free Shelters will help you do that. It's completely free. And there is some great science they put out, because when we told all of our staff at APA that they have to do this, they went, what do you think the big argument is? I don't have time. There's 65,000 cats you just pulled, Maka. There's great science on this. It actually takes less time to handle cats in a fear-free way during a shelter intake process than it does the rough way, because what happens when you drag a cat out by her scruff and you pin her down? Are you going to win that fight? No, you are not. Hell hath no fury like a cat who wants to live. You will never, never, never win that fight. Where's my financial people in the audience? Anybody responsible for their insurance and their... Yeah, Chris, what happens when we pin a cat down and scruff it? Bad things happen. What happens to your bottom line when I scruff and pin a cat down? Bad things happen. Chris's insurance rate goes through the ceiling because I'm going to get bit and I'm going to have a 9-night hospication at the hospital when a cat mauls me. And I've had a 9-night hospication at the hospital when a cat has mauled me. You're not going to win that fight, right? But you're not going to set that cat up for success for the rest of its life, and you're not going to combat this trend that we have in this country where cats just don't go to the vet because it's such a miserable experience for them. So fearfreeshelters.org, completely free. You get a nice little certificate at the end. We have mandated it for all of our cat staff at APA. They have all taken it. It doesn't take more than a night. The other thing that you can do is start promoting your cat-friendly hospitals, your private clinics who are fear-free certified, who are cat-friendly practice certified, and start collaborating with them so that you are supporting them in their endeavor to provide better species-appropriate care for the animals that we've all devoted our lives to. You all have cat hospitals in your area, right? If you don't, start looking at cat-friendly practices that are certified. They usually have a nice little window, and promote them to your adopters. For going out of their way to buck the trend, and even though the bulk of my income as a DVM might come from dogs, I still care about this species and I'm going to provide appropriate care for it. Support those vets. They're trying hard. How are our shelters doing themselves? How are walls and roofs doing for cats? Lousy. Have you all been to Austin Pets Alive yet, our TLAC facility? If you have, you done a tour? We were built in the 1940s and 50s. We were built to house cats and dogs for 3 days and then kill them. If you want to see terrible shelter design, come to Austin Pets Alive and we will show you what it looks like. We will also show you how we're using it to save lives, but you can see how things used to be for cats and how a lot of them still are. Shelters make cats sick, yes? Yes. You all know that. Cats are so particularly susceptible to stress. They are one of the few creatures on Earth who can give themselves a urinary tract infection from stress alone. Could you imagine your life? Every time you got upset, you got a UTI, shoot me now, right? But particularly susceptible to stress, cats get sick. This is why they get URI, right? We know this. They get URI because they're stressed. We put them in small cages, and then we surround them by a dominant predator. How's that working for them? It's not. What is the natural, what's the average range that an intact male cat roams outside? Anybody know? 5 miles? 4 miles, intact tomcat will roam. Do you guys every day, tell me about the walking program that you have at your shelter, where you harness each cat up and you take the cat out for walkies every day. No? Do your dogs all go out for walks every day? How far is their natural habitat range? Half. Are we providing species-appropriate care? Stress cat is a sick cat, yes? What do we do with sick cats in this country? I'm gonna change the, I don't use the word euthanize unless I mean it. It's true dictionary definition, so we kill them. But yes, you're absolutely right. What happens to cats who appear fractious or feral in our shelters? Do you all have cats in your house that look fractious and feral even though they're the nicest thing in the world? All of my cats at home, if you impounded them and took them to control, would look like a Wolverine in the cage, right? And then the next thing I want to talk about is our movements of cats within shelters and how we can do better nowadays. Again, this is a great time to pick on Dr. Levy and her good friend, Dr. Kate Hurley. Did you see the study that came out from Dr. Hurley last year that talked about the movements of cats within our shelters and how they correlate to URI? What do we like to do when we intake a cat? We intake her and we stick her in a cage and we put her there for a few days, then we might move her around or put her in some sort of holding zone, and then we're gonna, maybe in a week or so, put her into adoptions, and then we'll move her around a few more times. Do cats like to be moved around? Cats are territory-based. That's where they get all their safety from, is territory. So this wonderful study that Dr. Hurley put last year looked at the rate of URI and how it tracked movements. And she came up with a lovely little statement that pretty much if you move a cat in the first 7 days of her shelter stay, if you move her 3 times, you have pretty much guaranteed yourself a URI. It's going to happen. So what this means for you is that you need to start figuring out at your intake process, what does species-appropriate flow through your shelter look like? It should look like intake, cat sits for vaccination hold time, which is 72 hours, and then cat moves to adoption floor, period. There are so many shelters that I visit and I do consults with, and I go and there's this mysterious cat holding room, and there's just all these cats wall to wall. And the shelter staff will tell me, well, they just came in, so we're going to watch them for 2 weeks and make sure they don't get sick. I can tell you what's going to happen, and I don't have a crystal ball. Cat's going to get sick. So there is hard science, good science out there that says spend 5 more minutes up front doing a quality intake exam to make sure she is healthy to enter Gen Pop, vaccinate her, and then move her to adoption as quickly as possible, and do not move her around once you put her there. So stop quarantining up front, stop moving around, spot clean versus deep clean. You guys are all in hotels while you're here? Airbnbs, something? Those are my people from out of town. This is how a cat sees security. So those of you who are in a hotel right now, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to come up to your hotel room while you're here at this session. I'm going to steal all your stuff. I'm going to take all of your luggage and all of your clothes and all of your goodies and your toiletries. It's all mine now. And I'm going to move you over to the Motel 6. Enjoy. And I'm going to do this to you every night of your life. How long before you get sick? Right? Don't do this to your cats. Don't take all their stuff and move them every day. Leave them their luggage. Clean around them. When your hotel maid comes to visit you and cleans your room tonight, she doesn't take all your stuff and relocate you. She works around you in a respectful and species-appropriate manner, right? How do we talk about cats? You've all seen these Facebook posts? We're overrun with cats. We're drowning in cats. You've all seen them. You don't have to tell me if you're the one doing it, because then I will shame you. I will also unfollow you immediately, because no one wants to see this, right? We've all seen this, though. Do you see a whole lot of posts about we're drowning and overrunning dogs? You do? You see overrun and we're drowning in dogs? Both? Yeah. So, yeah, Texas has more dogs than cats impounded, for sure.
Right now in both of our shelters in the county, we have maybe a total of 40 cats and 400 dogs.
It's coming. The cats are coming. Yes. But this is how we talk about cats in this country, right? As an industry. We're drowning in them. And I feel sometimes like we're overrunning cats. It's fine. This isn't a judgment statement, but this is how we talk about them. This is how we message them. Would it surprise any of you to know that we impound less cats in this country than we do dogs? given how overrun and drowning we are in them. As a country, we take in far less cats into our shelter industry than we do dogs, but I personally don't see a whole lot of posts every day saying I am drowning in dogs. So we take in less dogs, but look what happens to them when we get them. On the bottom, you can see their wildly disproportionate euthanasia rates. We kill far more cats, even though we have less of them. On the bottom, top right, they die in care in far disproportionate rates. And of course, on the bottom right, lost in care, we just lose the damn cats in far disproportionate numbers than we do dogs. So we're not drowning in them, because if we're not drowning in dogs, we can't say we're drowning in cats when we have less of them. But we do disproportionately treat them terribly. Okay, now this, if you post on Facebook, I am going to shame you. Even though I am not on Facebook anymore these days, I will find you and I will shame you. You've all seen these. You all have good intentions when you post these things. Does anybody not know what this is? The old, fun, 2 cats makes 420,000 cats pyramid. You know you've all seen this on social media. This is as old as time. This is so scientifically and mathematically inaccurate that there is not a single organization who will take credit for ever starting this. People who have done actual math and are good at it, which are not me, have come up with the actual number somewhere around 95 if you actually look at the attrition rate and the the birth rates and whatnot. Now, I'm not saying that 95 cats, we still need 95 cats. However, it's not 420,000. Or the graph on the left says that 2 cats will make 11 million cats in 9 years. Would you be able to walk down the street if this were true? You'd be up to your literal eyeballs in cats, yes? But what are you teaching people when you, with good intentions, post this online? There's nothing else to do. 2 make 11 million, for God's sake. We need to eradicate them or we won't be able to drive. You're also teaching them that they are what? Disposable and worthless. Because there are so freaking many of them, why would I value it? Not only are they worthless, but I don't want this in my house. This sounds like a herd of locusts. You're devaluing them every day through these old myths that we perpetuate, and you have good intentions, but we have to stop it. Where do these cats belong instead? Wherever they want to be. Where are they thriving in the world right now? The number one thing you can do if you care about cats and you love cats, and I know that you do, is put them back. Spay and neuter, vaccinate, chip them, and put them back where they belong. And I want you all to go home and reevaluate what the word home means to you, because we're very hung up on that in this country, because we'll go, I don't care for your home, cat. I don't like it. It's behind the grocery store and you eat out of a dumpster. That's not a good enough home for you. That's not your choice to make. Is she fat and happy and thriving where she is? Then that's her home. I can guarantee you right now, if Jeff Bezos came to my home, it would not be suitable for him. He would find it completely unacceptable. Doesn't mean that I want to be imprisoned and impounded and killed because Jeff Bezos doesn't like my home, right? I want you to reevaluate what home means and be species appropriate with it and think about where these cats are thriving. And the wonderful quote, again, from Dr. Kate Hurley, if we support the cats in the homes they already have, there will be enough homes for them, because there are in the rest of the world right now where cats are doing well. This is the big one I want you to go home with. I want you all to promise me you're going to stop stealing cats. So, year ago, 2 years ago, I went to a shelter in Ohio, and that shelter is not in the room today. I know I have some Ohio people here, but it was not this shelter. And I walked in, and every cage bank was full of 12, 15-pound fat tomcats, big jowls. And they're my favorite creatures in the world. I love them the best, and they're all big, fat, making biscuits up there. And I said to the show, I'm like, oh my God, where did you get all these cats? They're all amazing. And you know what they told me? Those were all TNR cats. They're too nice. How does a cat outside, how does he or she get to be nice? How did that 15-pound tomcat learn to be so loving and nice that his big dumb butt just sits there making biscuits all day? He's being pet by 20 people. If a cat is friendly and found outside, someone must have loved that cat. You've just stolen someone's community cat. That makes me feel like garbage. And so the shelter told me that, and my heart broke. I was like giddy, oh my God, I want to squish all their cheeks. And then they told me that, and my heart broke because there were 50 cats in that room, and there had to be 50 to 1,000 people in the community that were missing their cat. That cat had a home. It's 15 pounds. Look at it. It wasn't wanting for anything. We're stealing these cats. So I want you to think about that, the term friendly stray. Is there such a thing? How do you think it got that way? And there might be, sure. She may be displaced and it wasn't meant to be an outdoor cat, right? But 9 times out of 10, that's probably somebody's cat that you're stealing. Cat's not getting reclaimed, right? We can accept that? Cat's 13 times more likely to go home on her own if you just give her a little pat on the head and leave her alone on the sidewalk. What's the number one killer of cats in this country? We are. I am. Our industry is. So given what we know about the rest of the world and how they're doing things, do we need to be doing that? Is there a better way? Who knows what a disruptive company is? Name me a disruptive company. Uber. Uber came along and said, I'm not going to build a better electric light through the continuous improvement of candles. Uber didn't say, I'm going to build a better taxi cab. Uber came along and said, watch this. Netflix did not come around and say, I'm going to rent videos out of a storefront better than Blockbuster. Netflix said, this entire system is crap and I have a better way. What I want you to think about is that I don't think we're getting anywhere fast enough in this country through the continuous improvement of candles, band-aiding things. And I think we need to really reevaluate where we're going with cats, of why we have them, what we're doing. Right? So I want you to look at the cats in your shelter when you go home and ask yourself, what am I doing with this cat and why am I doing it? Does she need to be here right now? Maybe. She might be. Yeah, I mean, there are very good reasons why we should be sheltering cats. But if we are full with all the cats that don't need to be there, we can't help that cat very well, right? So I want you to think about what we're doing and why we're doing it, and ask yourself that when you're doing your daily rounds every day. And think about, your boss may not like it, completely disrupting the system and thinking outside the box and saying there's got to be a better way, because cats as a species are doing great everywhere but in this country. Okay, 1 minute. Yay! Questions? If you pop up here, I'll give you one of my cards. Yes?
If you're assuming that every cat you pick up does have an odor,
Yep.
it's friendly or whatever, and then you're doing spay neuter return, are you here tipping those cats?
Yeah.
If they belong to somebody.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
You're going to make some pretty upset people, right?
9 times out of 10, they don't even know what it is, and they think cat got in a fight. But then when we explain what actually happened, that it's for the benefit of the cat, so we know not to pick up that cat again.
Can I just ask, who is still doing combo tests in their shelters, rescues? Okay, we have problems.
Yeah, if you want to know more about combo testing, come to Dr. Levy and my round table in an hour, and we'll talk all things retrovirus and testing. That's coming up. We're out of time, but I don't know. Blame him. I'm fine to keep going until they kick us out of the room, because I'm fun like that.
I'm from Los Angeles area.
They turn
in
the microphones off. I can yell. I'm good at that.
I'm from Los Angeles area in California, and the animal shelter director at Orange County Animal Care was trying to attempt to do SNR for the first time ever, and it was wonderful.
Yep.
And then the community just about,
Yeah.
oh, it was,
So-
and now he's gone, right? I think.
Yes. So you're going to all face this, right? With the outdoor cats, what's the biggest argument we get for outdoor cats right now? The bird people. Tell me again how long cats have been outside as they are. How the birds been doing for 12 million years? Birds have been doing fine for 12 million years. Cats have been outside for how long? Or I'm sorry, cats have been in our houses in this country for how long? 70 years? Are the cats responsible for the death of the birds? There's a wonderful webinar came out last year again by Dr. Hurley Dr. Hurley put out what I think is the webinar of the year last year and took a hard dive into the science of cats versus birds, and I'm not going to give out the dramatic conclusion for you, but you can guess what it is, but it's backed up by an incredible amount of fascinating science. And guess what? Well, the cats win. You already know it, or else I wouldn't be talking about it.
So what do you do with all the cats that, dump out in the woods, or and create huge colonies of feral cats? Do you still SNR them?
Yeah. If cat comes in, so how it works in Austin is cat comes in through what I call a 30-point inspection. Fat, we evaluate your body condition score, we look at your teeth, we do all those things. If you come in and you are in good weight and you look clean and presentable and healthy, you're clearly thriving in your home. So there's no reason for me to take you and impound you and make you sick and kill you. Now, if cat is emaciated and she's sick and she's right, then we need to help that cat. We may need to pull back on the cut off.